For Manchester City, £70 million might seem like a small amount. If they have to meet all the demands from other Premier League clubs, it won't be a huge financial issue. Their revenue this season alone has already reached £119 million. However, this situation is quite different from many other Premier League clubs that are struggling financially this season. According to financial reports from each club, there are 4 Premier League teams that could face sanctions. These sanctions are related to significant financial imbalances. To deter other clubs, UEFA imposes punishments such as point deductions for those who violate financial fair play regulations. So, which clubs are at risk of these sanctions? And how did they end up with such massive debts? The first club that is almost certain to face UEFA sanctions is Everton. The club has a massive inherited debt burden, with the Toffees recording a debt of £371.80 million over the last 3 seasons. Last season, this financial turmoil had a negative impact, and Everton was hit with a 6-point deduction. As a result, their position in the 2023-2024 standings dropped from 14th to 19th. Fortunately, Everton managed to avoid relegation by finishing the season in 15th place in the Premier League. However, Everton's challenges are far from over. The massive debt continues to haunt them, especially due to the new stadium development project. The Bramley Moore Dock Stadium is expected to cost over £500 million and is scheduled to be completed within a year. This season, Everton faces a similar risk, another point deduction, that will force them to fight hard to stay in the Premier League and avoid relegation. With more than £300 million in debt, paying off such a burden is not easy for the Toffees. The club, based in the outskirts of Liverpool, must accept the consequences of their difficult financial situation. This season, Everton has only recorded a profit of about £28.15 million, an amount far from enough to cover their total debt. With such revenue, Everton would need over 10 seasons to pay off their financial burden. If UEFA officially declares that Everton has violated the Profit and Sustainability Rules (PSR), sanctions will be imposed. For the Toffees, it's now just a matter of time before those sanctions take effect, which will automatically push them down in the Premier League standings. Moving on to London, Chelsea is also facing a similar threat as Everton, point deductions. However, unlike Everton, this issue is not due to a stadium development project, but rather the recklessness of the club's owner, Todd Boehly. The new owner of the Blues seems to have been overly ambitious with player signings. During the last summer transfer window, Chelsea reportedly spent £200 million to bring in 7 new players. Meanwhile, Chelsea only managed to sell 5 players, generating a total income of £144 million, leaving the club with a £56 million deficit to cover. This gap contributed to Chelsea's soaring expenses at the start of the season. On the other hand, the club's revenue also took a hit, including a 27.2% drop in broadcasting income. This decline has further worsened the Blues' financial situation. In the previous season, Chelsea earned £259.7 million from broadcasting rights. However, this season, that amount dropped significantly to just £189.1 million. To comply with PSR regulations, Chelsea sold its women's football team shares to Blueco at the end of the 2023-2024 season to reduce losses. This move provided some breathing room for the management. However, under Todd Boehly's controversial leadership, Chelsea was also forced to sell other assets, including a club-owned hotel valued at £76 million in an effort to avoid sanctions. Financial challenges aren't limited to top-tier teams like Chelsea. Nottingham Forest is also grappling with similar issues due to heavy spending on player signings. The club spent £71 million to bring in 7 players, while only managing to sell 3 players for a total income of £50 million. This £21 million deficit has forced the club to cover the shortfall, creating a serious imbalance between expenses and revenue. As a result, the team that once made waves in the Premier League now faces a financial headache. Even so, some of the players recruited during the 2024 to 2025 summer transfer window have made positive contributions, boosting the attacking power of the Tricky Trees. On the flip side, This massive spending has resulted in Nottingham Forest suffering losses amounting to £109 million, exceeding the allowable loss limit of £105 million for clubs. The only way to address the financial issues plaguing the club is to sell some players, including recent signings like Elliot Anderson, Nikola Milenkovic, Ramon Sosa, and 4 others. This step is being taken to stabilize the club's finances and avoid more serious threats. This step must be taken to ensure the survival of the club. If necessary, all of these players should be sold to significantly reduce Nottingham Forest's losses. While this is a difficult decision, it is crucial to ensure the club can endure the financial challenges it is currently facing. Lastly, Leicester City, the bottom team in the Premier League standings, has faced significant struggles during Brendan Rodgers' era. The club was unable to sign any players in 2022 due to severe financial problems. As a result, Leicester City failed to meet their points target and was forced to face relegation from the Premier League. Brendan Rodgers was eventually dismissed even though his contract was set to run until 2025. This firing forced Leicester City to pay a significant compensation fee, further adding to the club's financial burden. As a result, Leicester City found itself with a debt of £301 million. However, this amount was slightly reduced thanks to the club's revenue of £177 million. Despite this, the club's financial situation is still far from stable. With a revenue of £177 million, Leicester City's remaining debt in 2024 still stands at £124 million. However, the club's financial situation this season remains far from promising. This is evident from the financial statement, which shows significant losses. The former Premier League champions reported expenses of £73.1 million in 2024, while their income was only £29.8 million. This imbalance has worsened Leicester City's financial situation even further. Now, with Leicester City's debt continuing to rise, the threat of sanctions from UEFA is becoming more imminent. If the club fails to reduce its debt below the set threshold within the next 2 weeks, Leicester City will have to prepare for penalties. This situation adds even more pressure on the club, which is already trapped in a difficult financial condition. Leicester City's future looks increasingly bleak, with the risk of sinking further to the bottom of the Premier League standings. In fact, if this situation isn't addressed soon, they could face relegation once again. As for the 4 Premier League clubs currently grappling with financial issues, the big question is whether they can turn their critical situations around. Swift action and the right strategies will be key for these clubs to escape the financial crisis and maintain their presence in England's top-tier competition.